The victims you know so well, they shine in your eyes, they make you stand tall. Strange places we've never seen, but you're always there, like it goes to my dream, and I keep on telling you, please don't do the things you do. There was friends on a damn wall, Eastern boys and Western girls. There was friends on a damn wall, Eastern boys and Western girls.
Don't go breaking my heart. I couldn't if I tried. Oh, honey, if I get restless, baby, you're not the kind. Don't go breaking my heart. You take the weight off me. Oh, honey, when you knock on my door, oh, I gave you my key. Ooh, nobody knows it. When I was down, I was your clown. Ooh, nobody knows it. Right from the start, I gave you my heart. Oh, I gave you my heart.
I think that's too much, don't you think? Oh, hello. Wait. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Az. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Back Room, episode 5. Oh, my God, can you believe we've done 5 episodes, Mr. A?
I can't believe we've done 5 episodes, and also me doing that karaoke little number. I'm sorry,
wonderful.
everybody. He made me do it.
That was so amazing. I don't understand why you say that. Like, it's so funny when people have been saying that, but then they sing and they sing amazing. You know what I mean? Let's talk about that for a minute.
I didn't sing amazing, but
let's talk about the karaoke challenge thing to stop suicide. Like,
yep.
Firstly, we want to say thank you to everyone that's donated money. We've $2,000 so far. We've got $3,000 to go, and we've got around 20 days to do it. We can do that. Yep. But it's interesting, and I want to know what you think, Aaron. Like, it's interesting when I was creating the challenge in my head, because I've got friends that are confident, friends that are therapists, friends that are out there. I actually thought that everyone would just do it, and people are donating money, but they aren't doing the karaoke challenge. Like, But you did it. You did it.
I know, but
so what do you think that's about?
Well, obviously, the viewers don't know this. You know this. Because I come to... I had a really bad karaoke experience as a kid. And you and I did a therapy session on that. And it was because I felt that I made a big dick of myself in public. And I felt shame, embarrassment, all that sort of stuff because of the situation that happened back then. We worked through that. And I guess that just brought up a couple of things for me because I'm putting myself out there, throwing myself to the wolves and expecting, shame, guilt and fear and all that sort of stuff. But really, at the end of the day, I had to rethink the situation and go, why am I doing this? It's about the why. It's because I don't, it's not, the why is bigger than me feeling bad or embarrassed. The why is because we're doing this for people, for suicide and doing it for awareness and things like that.
Yeah. But it's also interesting that, you're a grown man who's done work on that problem and you've been able to, and you've actually got so much confidence in other areas. And it really that little trigger goes off because you think people are judging you. And that's it. Like, I have to admit, like, I've been doing the most terrible clips, right? But every time that I do it, I've laughed so hard. I've laughed so hard. Like, so it really has helped me not to care.
I take my hat off to you because I'm like going, you just throwing this out there and you just not giving a shit. And that's kudos to you. I think that's great. I think it's fucking amazing.
I guess it's because I really want to make this work because I'm passionate about prevention.
Yeah.
So if I have to make a fool of myself to get people, because I don't know if people understand what you just said is the important part is if someone is at home and they're depressed and they want to kill themselves because they don't feel they can be vulnerable because they're embarrassed and ashamed of talking about it, then
that's exactly it.
The karaoke thing was to show them that it's okay to make a dick of yourself. And so if we can't make dicks of ourselves, we're actually telling the people at home that it's okay not to be vulnerable. That's the whole message. It's the message isn't being sent out. So we've got time to rectify that. You know, I actually started creating emojis of females so I could do female karaoke. And I sent you some on Sunday, remember? You just going to me.
You sent me, I was like, someone's got a little bit more time on their hands.
I was sick, so I was in bed. Okay, so on today's show, we've got a lot going on. We've got people talking about suicide. I'm actually going to give you a snippet of one of my podcasts that is out tomorrow. And it is a really brave man called Mark Chabok, who he actually, like, I just feel so humbled that he was able to sit there with me and tell me everything that he was feeling before he almost killed himself. And I think that vulnerability and sharing it with us is going to be really, really important. So he's coming up. We've got Ryan from the men's, Blake, I always call him Ryan, Blake from the Men's Community Connection, and he's going to be talking about something that you and I need to think about, and that's getting older. Maybe
I'm actually fine with it. I'm fine with it.
I'm joking. You're so young. You're like my brother, my older brother.
I just can't move my face, that's all.
And Sandy's back talking about what happens when we tell ourselves that we're over an addiction, but then we slip back into it, or when we're doing something and we don't realise that we're in addiction. We're going to talk about that.
Good.
And your favourite guy's back, the BEAR Gardner.
Yay, we love beer. I mean, look, they're all favourites. You can't just go my favourites. It's like that's just like naming your favourite child. You can't.
No, but he's our favourite. So why lie? So there's lots on. And I've got a surprise for everyone. Like in between each segment, there's going to be some special little messages from our team. So watch out for that. So we'll be back after this.
Let it be, let it be, let it be, yeah, let it be.
Hey everybody, we're about to do a preview from Secret Men's Business podcast. Joey's about to talk to a gorgeous man called Mark and talking about suicidal thoughts.
And on today's show, we're going to be speaking to Mark, who is going to tell us about his experience with his emotions and his mental health that may have led him to consider taking his life. Mark, how are you?
I'm good, Joe. How are you?
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you ever so much.
I wanted just to firstly say that I really feel that it takes a brave person to talk about their mental health. And trying to get people to talk on this podcast has been very difficult. So
yeah.
I remember you being the first person that said, yes, I'll help. So thank you for that. This podcast is about suicide prevention. And do you want to just, I guess, share with us when you first started to notice things going on with your mental health?
I think probably when I was overseas and being in a church environment, so a Pentecostal evangelical church environment, which I was in my early 20s, so about 23 in London, and I realised that, and it wasn't a healthy environment.
Right, and what did you start noticing? Was it depression, or was it anxiety, or was it just that you knew something wasn't right?
I think it was definitely anxiety. I had really severe anxiety, and where it got to the point where it was out of control.
Mm.
And I remember I just had this fear of being around people, and I imagined every individual could look straight through me,
right,
and like read every thought.
Yeah.
So and it just got really really out of hand.
Were you did you carry that on your own, or were you able to share that with anyone?
No, in my 20s, because I was in London, so I only had a sister in England, and of course it was that mentality of toughen up, just pull through it, and also then on top of that, it was, you're a Christian, so you're not supposed to be depressed. You're supposed to be sort of strong, powerful, an example to the rest of the community. So it was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot. I mean, I'm Catholic, so I sort of relate a lot to what you're saying. It is a lot, isn't it, to have that guilt put on you by a church or a parent or a body telling you how to feel and what you can and can do.
Yeah.
So you end up getting this feeling of not being right. And for you, when you had those thoughts or that anxiety, how long or when did it start to escalate in regards to you thinking about your own life?
Well, it was just and just opening up to someone and say that I do suffer from depression, and even just getting to that point, it's funny enough to say a weight goes off your shoulder because you've actually acknowledged what you suffer from to another individual. So you've opened up that part of your life that you are so ashamed of.
Yeah. It sort of in a way normalizes it, because I think sometimes people feel that they're the only person. And especially again when we're young, and in that time, that era that we both grew up in, there wasn't very many resources to help us. So how did you start thinking about suicidal thoughts? Like what took
So
you
it really
from
it really came to full force. So I only came out late in life. So I came out December 2017.
Okay, so that's not long ago, is it?
After the marriage equality passed in November, was it?
Yeah.
November 17, yeah. And so in my mind, I thought, now that I've acknowledged my true self, everything else will fall into place.
Wow. Okay. Like talking to Mark, I remember I put a post out asking people if they would volunteer, and only Mark and another person volunteered. I haven't interviewed the other guy, but no one else volunteered. And I'm sure that's not an accurate viewpoint of what people think. Like, do you think that most of us have those thoughts every now and then, or even once?
I mean, I can't talk on behalf of anybody else. I can only, draw my own experience. I was in a situation about 13 years ago. Yeah, about 13, 14 years ago. There was a lot happening in my life where my mum passed away. I had glandular fever. It was just a combination of a few things where, I was just flat, and I ended up getting depression. And so, or before that, before I got diagnosed with it, when finally somebody came to the table and diagnosed me with depression, I just really remember just sitting on the end of the bed, because I couldn't go to the gym for almost 2 years because I just didn't have the energy. There was nothing. I had no drive, no incentive, no goal. And I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and I was looking at, sorry, I'm frog in my throat. I was sitting at the edge of my bed, and I was just looking at the wall, and my thought was, God, if I'm dead on the inside, I might as well be dead on the outside.
Did you feel like that life, like you didn't have anything to offer, or nothing was going to happen? Because if you were thinking that, it was like you're saying there's nothing else to come. Is that what you were feeling? You were feeling like you hit a wall?
I don't know Joey. I just felt numb. I felt nothing. There was nothing. There was just no feeling of anything. It was just.
So how did you get out of that?
It was really difficult for me to find a doctor that would diagnose me with depression, because I think at that time they were handing out antidepressants left, right, and center. So I think there was a big cut down on that sort of diagnosis. So they were just trying to steer away from it and going, we're not going to diagnose anybody with depression, even if they've got it. And so I was just butting my head up against the wall, going to see counsellors and therapists and things. And I'm just going, I saw a counsellor and she said, well, how's your diet? I said, my diet's fine. I've got a juicer, blah, blah, blah. Well, how about exercise? I'm walking the best I can under the circumstances, right? So she was throwing all these things at me, and I rebutted with everything and more. And she couldn't answer me or give me any. I'm thinking, am I going nuts here?
So what do you think it was now? Was it just grief maybe because you just lost your mum and you were just feeling this grief that you didn't understand?
It was, like I said, it was a combination. I had glandular fever, and then, not being able to do anything, and plus the grief from my mum on top of that. And it just steamrolled.
I was going to say, do you mind if I ask, why do you think, or, I think it's really important to look at what you learned. It's like, why do you think you felt like you didn't have any option? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it because you didn't know what you know now? Like, because really, it's interesting, isn't it, when we think that we don't have an option? Because I've also had a similar situation like you. So why do you think you didn't feel like you had an option? Why do you think that was going to be the end result?
Well, I didn't think it was the end result. It was I got to the point of the cusp of possibly. It wasn't something I was like going, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
It was more like, oh.
But you can imagine, right? You can imagine other people that are in your shoes, but they actually do it. That's the thing that, well, especially when I hear about young, I don't know if I told you, but recently an 8-year-old boy did it.
Right? Yeah, no, you told me about that. It was just
I'm thinking, okay, so, for him to think that there was no other option, he didn't even think, right, that he's going to grow up and there's a life. You know what I mean? To have that definite where you don't want to be here. And it is because it's a pain thing, isn't it? Like, it's really about how do I get rid of this pain? And if you don't have the solution, then it's going to be like you are going crazy. Because when I went through a similar thing before I became a therapist, and that's how I felt. And I remember, so I can laugh now, but I literally rang my mum and dad and said, I'm killing myself and I'm taking pills. And when they come over, I swallowed Panadol. It was really about attention. I wanted them to come over, but I didn't know how to say, come over, I'm in pain. And so for me, that was a really big moment of when I broke through. And I thought, you know what? Once I got the attention, something switched. Because sometimes you are alone and you think you're dealing with it alone. And that's why when you said, am I going crazy? That's what it feels like, I think. You are feeling that, aren't you?
I was feeling crazy because no one was listening to me. I felt there was something going on here. I'm not feeling the best. And nobody wanted to take any ownership, or they didn't want to diagnose me with anything. But, I mean, the suicide's different with the depression, but it kind of went in hand. So I finally saw a doctor that went, man, you've got a Dutch depression. I went,
yeah.
Fuck, thank you. I thought I was going nuts because no one was listening.
And no one asked you about the suicidal thoughts?
No.
Did you tell them?
No, I didn't. They didn't ask.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Look, just before we go, I just want to let everyone to know that if you are having experiences or thoughts of suicide, please make sure that you reach the numbers that were attached. Make sure you reach out to Lifeline or any other services. And also make sure that you make yourself some sort of promises in regards to action. So if you're feeling like you want to do something, tell yourself, okay, you know what, I'm going to call someone and then I'll reconsider. And sometimes when we talk to someone, a therapist, Lifeline, we're able to then understand what's going on. Okay, so make sure that we look after each other.
Hi, this is Matt from the Health Trinity. You're watching SMB TV.
Hi, this is Steve from Health Trinity, and you're watching The Back Room.
G'day, this is Sam from the Health Trinity, and you are watching The Back Room.
Coming up next is Blake Ryan and Men's Community Services. And Blake's going to be talking about something I guess all of us have to start thinking about, and that is what starts to happen to us when we start to get old. What are some of the services that help older people, older men, and why are we seen as old? Over to Blake. And this episode is brought to you by InSynergy Property Investment Group.
Hello and welcome to Men's Community Connect. Thank you, Joey and Aaron, for having me. I'm really happy to be here today. Last time we spoke about a rather depressing topic, let's call it, domestic violence. But today we're going to talk about another issue that we're facing in our community, which is the mature aging population and some of the difficulties that they have, some of the stuff that we kind of need to look at, and obviously some services available that are out there. So the mature age population have age-related disabilities. You might be looking at retirement. What does retirement look like? What kind of support is going to be available to you? And there's some quite alarming statistics around the fact that the suicide rate for mature age men is 3 times that higher of mature age women. So what does this mean for us? And, what does it mean for community action that's required? And I think we can really look towards the US because they're starting to really focus on support networks, especially for LGBT aging populations, which I think is definitely necessary. The thing is that we went through an AIDS epidemic, which meant that a lot of people sold businesses. They never bought houses. They might be suffering from poverty rates that no one really talks about. So what's out there and how do you get access to support when you are looking at retirement? So as we have started to notice, the population is aging. There are more and more elderly people now, and we haven't had this before. This is something completely new to us. Relationships look really different these days. So people used to get married and they would stay married until they retired, settled down, and eventually move on. So the fact that relationships are changing now means that we need to look at the kind of support networks out there for mature people at a different kind of angle. And what they're doing in the US is they're looking at how does the aging services adapt to how these are changing. In particular, LGBT people, and when they reach retirement, they can no longer live in their own homes. And are there retirement places where they could feel comfortable? And would they feel comfortable even accessing services like that? On top of identifying these weaknesses in the community development side of things, we also have issues such as elder abuse, which is, we've seen it all in the news and it's very rampant. But we're also developing age-related disabilities and whether or not the services are going to be able to keep up with the rise in aging populations. So what do we do? Like, what can you and I do? And, have you been thinking about what life looks like further down the track? There are things like the Men's Shed, which do some great work with maturing men, specifically around hands-on stuff like arts and crafts, woodwork, and also getting out in the community, which are really great. And I'll actually post some links because there's usually a Men's Shed in everyone's area. Acon have a really great program where they get together and they actually make the safe sex packs, which we all know about. There's also like a men's line which you can get access to counselling services. But I think we definitely need more. We need more people just creating small spaces for men to get together, chat, have a cup of coffee, share a biscuit. Like, I think small things like this will make a huge difference and help the community deal with the rise in the aging population. Right? Me, myself, and reflecting on how I think or see myself growing older, I'm constantly thinking about it. Like, what does life look like when I can no longer work? I think about the fact that I haven't yet had children. I'm not saying I won't, but, can I rely on support from my family? And I do have a lot of my friends are much older than me, and I find that really comforting. I like to learn from experiences, hear all sorts of stories, but I also see disrespect in the community. Like, I've noticed that I can't speak for everyone, but the way we treat people, because of the fact that they're slightly older than us, and there is a lot of discrimination, I feel. And how will I cope with that? Like, or can we change that so that as we do grow older, we can come together and just be respectful of each other? So getting a little more personal now and reflecting on my opinions and what I see going on within the community. And I like going out to clubs, per se. Like, 1 minute you're being respectful, you're young, you're walking in, all the eyes turn on you. Not me personally, but I see it. And then once you hit a certain age, people just, they stop looking, or they treat you differently. And you sort of have to navigate which clubs you go to. You know, why are leather bars or other sorts of bars more accepting of older populations? And that's one of the questions we have to ask. I personally have reflected on the fact that I haven't had children, and you know, what does that mean for me as I grow older? Like, who do I leave my stuff to? Like, all this stuff is questions that even me as a younger person have definitely thought about and are concerned about. How can we kind of change this and create community support in that area? The dating scene, like why all of a sudden, once you hit a certain age, are you referred to as a daddy? Is that some sort of issue that we need to discuss? Some people love it, some people hate it. I personally surround myself with people that are older than myself because I love the experience and the stories they have to share, and I just think that like it should be valued more. How do we kind of bridge the age gap and start showing a little bit more respect and cherishing people's lived experiences? Because the older generations have lived through things that personally myself may have never experienced, and I think it's our duty to learn and to cherish that experience. So how do we determine age? What is older to you? Because I remember being 16 and thinking that people who were going out clubbing were old. They were, I mean, I wanted to get there, but when I got there, then the people who were 30s and 40s were old to me. I also know people in their 50s who feel and look and act like they are in their 20s. So why do we put these assumptions on people based on age? At the end of the day, it really is just a number. So we've covered a lot today, and we've spoken about the prejudices that we put on people based on age. We also covered men's services that are out there. There are a lot if you know how to look for them. But how can we get creative? Think about creating an online group. Check on your neighbours, like create a little walking group. Think about what's available in your local area and how you can do something small to make people feel connected again. So this has been Men's Community Connect. I've really enjoyed being here today. Thanks, Aaron and Joey, for putting this all together. See you next time.
Am I a daddy? Because you know what? I like daddies, but then when someone calls me a daddy, it gets really under my skin, and I feel like, no, wait a minute, I want to. So you know that I'm sort of getting used to that name now, but it is interesting how in Australia we see older people, especially gay men. I guess it's even straight old men. It's like they're very hidden or they're very pushed to the corner. Like, you know, there's no inclusiveness. Like, and when I go to America or even Europe, especially Europe, there seems to be like, you know, especially Spain when they all are up at 11 o'clock at night and they're all playing cards and the old people are sitting there having their coffee or whatever. And you think in Australia, we're all in fucking our houses and we're locked away. So what's your thoughts on getting older and how do you see older men?
I've heard of gay men going to parties and outdoor parties and things like that, and I've heard that they've been targeted by young guys. What are you doing here?
Well, that's happened to me, and like I'm going to put my hand up and say I did that. Even I remember going to the market and seeing Grandpa Acid. Right? Remember him?
I'm not originally from Melbourne, so
right.
I don't know.
There was imagine, right? Yeah, there was a guy. Imagine a guy, and if I was 25, 30, I thought he was 100. But he was probably 40 or 50. And he would always come and dress up in Lycra, and he would dance on podiums, right? Now, looking back at that, I go, freaking, he's so awesome. But at the time, we would, I think he got teased a lot. And it's like, I feel really ashamed that I actually, aged him. I was an ageist thing. I thought to myself exactly what you said. I thought, you know what are you doing here? You should be at home. And that's, now that I'm his age, no, I don't want to be at home. So why do you think Australians do that? Why, for example, do we have the Laird, and that's the okay place where guys can go? Or we have certain bars where it's okay for straight guys to go and drink their beer, which is the front bar. But where it's trendy or cool, if you're not like dressed right or you don't look cool, there seems to be a weirdness about it. People look at you funny. So look, we know that some older guys look well, right? They dress well. So they sort of get probably accepted. But why is it that older men in general are seen as old, which is telling me that it's seen as that they're not able to do things?
Maybe there wasn't any role models, at that time. Well, there's so many different factors to that. There's so many different layers to that. I don't know.
I think it's an Australian thing. It's not. It's because
it's an Australian thing. Yes, that's what I mean. But it's still an Australian thing. But it's like, well, it could be a number of things for Australia. I mean, like you say, Europe, they're so much more accommodating and so more so much more great English. They're obviously the elderly or the older generation are far more respected over there than what they are here, and it's a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing. So yes, because I would have thought that the younger generation in Australia would learn, right? But really, one of the big things that I noticed, and you probably may not know because you don't catch, I don't know how often you catch public transport. But, when I was young, I remember it was just automatic that I would offer a seat to an old person. But like now, no one offers nothing. Like young people will sit there with an old person and they won't say, not all of them, but like a lot of them won't get up. So there is a shift now before it was like, I respect you, I see you. Now it's like, no, it's each person for themselves.
Again, there's so many layers to the story. There could be that the kids weren't taught because their parents weren't, they didn't teach their kids. It could all relate back to that.
I've got one thing to say to you. These are the people that are going to look after us in the nursing homes.
My name's Ian the BEAR Gardner on your SMB TV.
Hi, this is Jodie from the Healthy You segment, and you are watching The Back Room with my boys, Aaron and Joe.
This is Martin from Secret Men's Beauty Business, and you're watching The Back.
Hey guys, this is Lawrence from the Pride Project. Topic today is the impact of using apps such as Scruff and Grindr. So we're being duly sponsored today by the Aussie Man and a new sponsor, Skinstitute.
Hi everyone, Lawrence here. Welcome to Pride. Now, this week I want to chat about a topic that can be a little bit polarizing to the gay community, and that's the topic of gay apps. I'm talking about Scruff, Grindr, Growler. Now, for some people, they really don't like these apps. They tend to find that they are the cesspit of superficiality and that they tend to steer clear of them. It's pretty obvious that these apps are not for everybody. For other people, though, it depends on how they wish to engage with it. For some people, they'll use it as a means of being able to connect and to be able to build some friendships. And this might be particularly useful for people that are in areas where they may not be able to connect as easily. And of course, there's no denying that it can be a bit of a meat market as well, that some people use it purely for the ability to be able to have hookups. Now, I am reminded of the wonderful book by Dr. Alan Downs, which is The Velvet Rage. And he talks about the 3 different stages involved with coming out. Of course, in the first stage, we talk about that shame that exists, about how we are afraid of people finding out who we truly are for fear that we might be seen as flawed or unlovable or rejected by the people we care about. But then we come out and we enter into the second phase, which many people would feel is potentially going to alleviate us of that shame. But it's actually a period of compensation where suddenly we go from keeping ourselves small to the other extreme. It's about the best body, the best clothes, the best music, the best car, the best job, the best boyfriend, the best home, all those sorts of things. And that can often be displayed within these apps. Now, of course, let's not generalize here as well. That may not necessarily be the case. I know there are certainly people out there who may not agree with what Dr. Alan Downs says in The Velvet Rage. However, I think for many people, they find these apps to be quite superficial. You just need to look at the number of profile pictures that are essentially headless torsos with 6-packs to be able to see that. And there's certainly nothing wrong with taking care of your body, but it is about validation as well. Not everyone is going to be able to have that kind of body. And I know for a lot of people that go on these apps, sometimes they might be messaging people and they hear nothing back. And ultimately it can lead them to feeling quite invisible and that they're not worthy. And that can be quite damaging for people's self-esteem as well. I certainly know that in the past I've messaged people on it and heard nothing back. And I've had those moments of thinking, am I really that kind of worthless? Which is a silly way to think, but in that moment you might feel that. I've also had instances in the past where people have messaged me and I've not responded. And that certainly hasn't been the best version of me at that time. It's not something I'm particularly proud of, and I feel apologetic to those people as well. Not that it happens terribly often here, to be honest, and in fact, my usage of those apps nowadays is almost close to non-existent. However, in those moments, there's been a reluctancy for me just to be real and say, perhaps they're not my type, or perhaps at the time I just wasn't feeling that I was being overly in a communicative mood. I think that we can often make meaning out of those events, though, and assume that it's about us when it might be something as simple as people being busy, people even being asleep, or perhaps people have had a big night and are perhaps too drunk or something else to be able to look at their app properly. I think the key thing here is that we need to remember not to take these apps too seriously. If we do, it'd be very easy for us to feel that we may not be worthy of some of the people that we might message. And that, of course, is absolute bullshit. But you know what? If you can learn how to take these apps not too seriously and to accept them for what they are, then they may have their use. If you find, though, that they are triggering you and making you feel that you're worthless or that everyone on it is only after one thing, maybe it's time to assess if the app is really the right thing for you. Hopefully this discussion has helped to enlighten a little bit around why some of us may use these apps and what the consequences might be when perhaps the communication isn't as fluid as what we want. Certainly I'd be interested to hear your feedback if you wish to provide it in the links around this video. And I thank you for watching, and it's now back to Aaron and Joe.
Apps.
Apps.
Let's talk about it. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I realized with the birth of apps that I am old school. That's all. And there's nothing wrong. I think it took me a while to get used to that because at first I felt really rejected. And then I felt like there was something wrong with me because I wasn't like adapting to the apps like everyone else was. Like, I think for me, I don't like app, I'm coming to your house. You know what I mean? Like, I like that part in the middle where you flirt and you look at someone at a bar and then you go up and say hello and the butterfly. I like that. And I don't get that on the apps. I feel sort of like I don't have any sexiness in it because the sexiness comes from the hunt. And I know that people would say that the hunt is on the apps because But, I've seen people like that are on the apps and they're just obsessed. They just sit there and just look at the apps and going, oh, I'm here, talk to me. Like, I can imagine that you probably like the apps.
Why?
I don't know, because I just imagine.
I can imagine you like the apps. Joey, why do I like the apps?
Well, I don't think that because you're a modern boy, maybe, and I'm older. I don't know, because I fall into the category of...
You're older by a year.
Oh, I keep thinking it's 10 years.
No.
Okay, so what do you think of them then?
Look, obviously they serve a purpose. If they can be fun, if you just take them on face value, like it is a bit fast foodish. You can read it, look at it, and go, oh, yes, no, yes, no, yes, yes.
But don't you think that there's a risk that now we have consumerism? See, like I used to love going to a club or a bar, right? And I think anyone can do this. This could be applicable to Tinder and everything, right? And you would look across a bar and all the people in that place, you are locked into one person, right? Now you're locked into 1,000. And so it's that part of it that I don't feel sexy about, because I like the romantic part of connection, even if it's just a one-night stand. But when there's like 1,000 people on the app and you're trying to navigate talking to everyone, what I did once, I sent the wrong messages to the wrong people. When you're talking to someone, you get confused and then you reply to the wrong person and you send them new things and you go,
oh, look, a picture that I wasn't expecting.
So, I probably just have to realize I'm not good at that sort of stuff. That's all. I'm good at other things.
Look, I think it helps people that are shy and quiet. That gives them a bit more courage to be behind an app. That they can reach out and they can say, hey, hi, or it helps them.
Well, how does it help that person when they get there? Do you think that that's just made it easier? Because I think that there's that whole disconnect now, where I'm scared that the old way is going to really die out. Because, think about gay clubs that slowly died down.
Yeah, I get that. But I'm just going back to the point where you're talking about, it's easier to be rejected on a screen than what it is to be rejected in real life. So I
get that. But I have, maybe because I'm a therapist, I see how that rejection on a screen is actually way more damaging than rejection in real life. Because the rejection on a screen is happening continually. Where when you're at a club or a bar, one person's rejecting you because that's the person you want. But some people that are don't deem themselves as like super hot or attractive. There's hot people, and then there's probably like an average looking everyday Joe Blow that's attracted to the hot guys, and he would be rejected by everyone. So that is what's hard, because he's trying to get into, his look is hot muscly men, for example. So he would be sending, say, 20 messages out and no one replies. That's 20 rejections. And then he's thinking, what's wrong with me? What's going on here?
Okay. So it's more amplified on the apps.
Yeah.
It's more amplified. It's more concentrated.
Concentrated. And as well, I think that's also on the other side. There's more opportunity as well. So someone could have sex with one person in the old days, but in the new days, someone can have sex with 5 people when, they just continually go home and just recharge and go again. So it's a different lifestyle. Everything's different. It's a different card.
Hi, this is Steve from Men's Sexual Health Advocacy, and you're watching The Back Room.
Hi, this is Lawrence on the Pride Project, and you're watching The Back Room.
My name's Blake Ryan, and I want my SMB Backroom TV.
Okay, it's time for the Men's Addiction Advocacy with Sandy, and she's going to be talking about how easy it is to slip into addiction without realising. And today's sponsor is Akers Luxury Tours.
Hello and welcome to the back room again. I'm Sandy and I'm talking about drug addictions and all things drug related really. So welcome again. I thought we'd talk today a little bit about slipping into addiction and realise that, you might think you're okay, but when you're slipping down that slippery slope, what does that actually look like? What is it that is happening to you in those moments? Often we do it through being unaware. So, you know, all those sort of catchphrases of mindfulness and giving yourself space, etc., have absolute meaning and are things that you can do to help yourself. So what does it mean when I talk about slipping into addiction? There's so many thousands of millions of reasons, and they're so individual of why you might start using it. Could be just something that it's something you want to do at the time. You mightn't have any painful sort of things going on. I've got to cover, I've got to do all of this sort of thing. In fact, sometimes the reason people use a lot is because they feel really good and they want to enhance that sort of feeling. They might be in an incredibly great space in their life and they want to celebrate even harder, or everyone else is doing it. And it can actually get out of control very, very quickly. And as I said, right from the first one, you don't do it intentionally. So understand it's not an intentional act to become addicted to anything. And that's right across the board. So when you see yourself, how do you know how to start looking at what those things are? So socially, you find that you can't say no, ever, or very, very rarely, and it gets less and less when you can say no. You find yourself that you can't be, as I say, everyone's individual, so I'll just run through a few of these, is that you might be home and you go, I'm bored, so you'll use some substances to enhance or whatever that space may be, or that you always have to use before you go out. Look at your triggers, look at slipping into those patterns. And honestly, that can happen very, very quickly or very slowly. I know a lot of the people that I work with, one of the triggers when they're starting to actually deal with some of the things that they've been using is one of the ones that they come back into use is often when they're feeling really good and they start becoming comfortable. And before they know it, they start slipping back into using, going, I'm in control, etc., etc. And it's quite sad because they sort of go, I was doing so well. And they were. No doubt about it, they were. And, you know, for any of you out there that have been using, or whether it be drinking, I mean, drinking itself is, because it's socially acceptable, is one that people go, I'll just have one of these or one or two of these, or, you know, find themselves where they don't allow themselves days, weeks, etc., of being clean. And that, whether that be drinking, smoking or drugs, or all three, they very rarely give themselves space to be clean just for a moment, just for a couple of days, a couple of hours. You know that if you've got to look at it and you're not even giving yourself a day, a couple of hours, you need to really start getting real about doing something for yourself and the people around you, but it really, really does have to come from yourself. So I think in saying that, when I'm thinking about slipping into addiction, start to actually question yourself a little bit. When was the last time? How long? Do I need? Etc., etc. Get real about it. Get real about your life, because this is not a practice run. This is what we've got. I want everyone that I know to live their days every day better than the last day, even if it's just through calmness. That's a beautiful place to be. So in saying that, I will be back, I think, in a fortnight. Everyone have a fantastic time. Give yourself some space, bit of awareness, and back to the boys and back to the back room with Aaron and Joey. All right, bye for now.
So do you think you've got an addictive personality, or do you think that you're more of a control person and you can control everything? So I guess. No, go on. Sorry, I apologize. What do you think? Do you think that you're able to say yes or no, and that's you're controlling things, or do things happen to you?
Okay, there's a category and there's a subcategory.
Okay.
Because there is a saying. I'm going to say there's a swear word in this. It's if you're going to. A friend of mine once said to me, if you're going to kiss it, fuck it. So whenever I do, I'm always do 100% or nothing. So, however, saying that is that I'm not a drinker. I mean, I participated in drugs. I'm not going to lie about that because I have. But if I'm going to do something like that, I always make sure if I'm going to have a big night, whatever it is.
But we're talking about every day or all the time, addictive stuff, not partying.
No. That's what I mean. There was a subcategory though. That's why I was going into that, because if I do go out there and do that, that's the sort of thing I do. But as for, I know I'm very good at not having addictions. I feel I'm very in control of that.
I thought that was you. That's good. So because I think that there is there's extremes, and then there's everyone else. So you're, because there's always a debate about things being addictive, or is the person addicted, right? Because someone says, the drugs are addictive, but the reality is that other people could take those drugs and they'll get addicted. So it must be the person, right? So I think something is missing, and then you want that thing. But when it comes to drugs, I think that it's easy for people to enjoy what you're saying, the feeling, and go out and not realize that it's impacting your life. You know what I mean? Like, it would be about that, isn't it? Is it impacting your work, your relationships? Especially if someone, say, using a heavier drug, probably they'd be isolating themselves or not seeing people or doing things at nighttime, not going to work. All those things are addictive behaviors, but they might not realize it's addictive because they're having fun.
Oh, no, I totally agree with you.
So, I don't know. I think that we live in an addictive world at the moment. Like, think about smartphones. How have you been able to control, because of your control abilities, how have you controlled your phone use? This would be interesting for the listeners. Are you able to do that as well with the phone use?
I do just sit there. Like, I'm not going to lie. I sit on the couch, my favourite couch in that corner there. It's the favourite part of the house. I lie there, pass out, watch on the phone, what's going on. I don't watch TV that much, actually. I probably watch the news, but I guess I am aware of what I'm doing. I know that I'm consciously what I'm doing. I'd like there'll be that self-check and go, what are you doing? You got up to pee and you're checking your phone in the middle of the night. What do you do? It's only because I thought, well, maybe somebody's trying to call me and they're in trouble.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's exactly the thing. Is like what you just said. It's like there's always this need to check, right? Where I saw something recently where there's a town, right, where they have this big giant space station thing where they're recording sounds from the universe, right? And so with this town, they can't have mobile phones because it clashes with the machinery of that gadget. So the town has got no phone at all. And it's like, and they don't care. So it's interesting watching people in 2021 who have no phone and how they were responding and feeling versus us. They were talking, they were interacting more, they were out, right? Everyone was looking up, no one was looking down. It was really a weird thing to watch. And when they asked young people, how do you feel? They didn't care. So it's interesting seeing how an addiction can be forced on us without even us knowing that we've got an addiction. Because we have got an addiction to the phones. Because if you had to turn it off for, say, a week and survive, I think people would complain. Like, instead of realizing that there's options of how you can navigate that. Like, how did we do it before?
Well, I've got a test for you. You've probably already done this. When you're on public transport, you sit there and you look around, everybody's on their phone.
Yeah,
everyone. Public transport. Everybody is just there. It's just like.
I know. Well, that's because now no one wants to engage with each other. That's the thing. And so, but public transport anyway, before it used to be books. Everyone used to be, I used to love it when people were reading their books upside down. But they, because people didn't want to sit there. I mean,
I was on the St Kilda line tram, like crazies. You have to pretend you're busy because they just come up to you and start talking. How are you?
So glad I don't take public transport.
Secret men's business is education.
I'm in love with the shape of it. We push and pull like a magnet. Although my heart is falling too. I'm in love with your body.
Hey guys, this is our gorgeous BEAR Gardner, Ian Buckley-Walker, talking all things pruning, and it's sponsored by Get Outside Melbourne.
Good morning, my name's Ian Buckley-Walker and welcome to my section on SMB TV about gardening. Well, it's springtime here in the UK, and as you can see, it's a glorious day. We're basking in the sun here, and I thought what better time to talk about some pruning. So pruning is something that needs to be carried out around this time of year, and I'm going to take you through some basic steps. So when pruning, basically all you need is a really good set of pruning cutters. So make sure they're nice and sharp. I'm going to take us down here because here in our beds at the moment you can see that all of this growth is starting to come back here. Spring's certainly hit this bed. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart and have a look at it. We're going to get rid of any dead, any damaged or any diseased leaves. So as you can see on this Senecio, we've got a lovely head on it here, but we've got some really ugly leaves towards the bottom. So nice sharp pair of secateurs, take it right back to the stem. We're just going to take off all of these ugly leaves. Why do we prune? We prune basically for three reasons. One, a nice pruned flower and plant will keep away any insects and pests, or will actually just reduce the amount of infestations that you could get. Two, it keeps the plant healthier. As you can see, this plant's still feeding this leaf here, even though it's looking really ugly. So that's why we get rid of it. It sends all of the energy then to the more healthier flowers. And the last reason, of course, is purely because it looks better. Nobody wants to see an ugly plant like this. We want to see this beautiful top part there. So I find pruning really therapeutic for me. It's a great way for me to escape out of the hustle and bustle of day-to-day life. Just take a little bit of time, spend some time just doing some really pretty stuff. So here we've got my hydrangea. Now this hydrangea wasn't pruned last year, so you can see that it's getting really spindly and lots of green at the top. Now, when the new growth has just started, if you looked around towards this bottom, there's a beautiful layer of green new growth. So that is ideally where I want to be taking this hydrangea back down to, so it creates a beautiful shape throughout the rest of summer. Now, don't be frightened, this is springtime, so it doesn't matter how brutal you're going to be on this plant, it's always going to flourish and it's going to come back into a much better shape. So, secateurs, look down on the stalk, the branch, and you'll see a nice bud down there. This is where you want to go to the sort of level, so just in front of the bud, you're going to snip there. We know that there's growth on this because there's a lovely fresh leaf just coming through here, and the height we're kind of aiming for is around the height of all this beautiful new growth inside. So I'm going to be quite brutal with this, so find another bud, take it back. This one here, nobody wants this here, it looks dreadful. Don't be frightened to take it right back into the pot again. Remember, this is going to recover through the rest of summer. So find again, nice notch, one snip, down it goes. This one here, down to the new growth. And so on and so forth. If you find any stuff like this, just lose it. We don't want ugly plants, we want lots of pretty things. So the last thing we're going to talk about is your grasses and your miscanthons. In springtime, we would have left these in autumn, having quite a little bit of length showing above the ground. The reason we do this is so the frost doesn't actually get into the root and the core of that plant. So now it's spring, we know there's not going to be any more frost. This is the time we take this right back to the soil level. So we lose all of the stuff that we left on. We know that the frost isn't going to attack the bottom of the plant. When it comes to various other trees and stuff, what I would recommend you do before pruning them is to do a little bit of research into the tree. When you do the research, it will tell you the perfect pruning time for them. Some should be pruned early summer, some should be pruned during winter. The reasons for this is it's where during winter, most of the moisture from trees disappears into the roots, so therefore it's safe to prune, and that's as a general Raw. Well, I hope you found this section interesting and informative for you. If you have any questions, then please don't hesitate to contact me. My email address is thebeargardner@icloud.com.
I'll say it once and I'll say it 1,000 times. The time goes so quick with you.
You not so much.
Me not so much. Now tell me, you haven't told me, what do you think about our new logo? You like it?
I do like it. The
I can't even follow it. I'd be the worst weatherman.
So, yes.
I'm trying to put my don't eat my hand. Yeah, I like it. And so it's been fun. Like, you know, it's been a good fun time with you. So look forward to seeing your karaoke on the screen like soon. Maybe after this goodbye, there's going to be a repeat of his karaoke.
I'm sorry that everybody's going to have to go through this, but it's pure speculation.
I think everyone needs to see the karaoke without the chipmunk voice. Yes. So coming up next is the live, uncensored, horrific version of West End Girls. See everyone, I'm Joey.
I'm Aaron. I'm really sorry.
In Western town, a dead end world. Eastern boys and Western girls. In Western town, a dead end world. The Eastern boys and Western girls. Western girls.